Hello, everyone. I'm Dion Cook from Avixa, and welcome to the technology behind Yamaha's new wireless conference microphones, presented by Dr. Holger Stolze. This webinar is brought to you by today's sponsor, Yamaha. Before I hand the presentation over to Holger, I need to go over a couple of brief housekeeping items. For everyone viewing today live, the webinar qualifies for a HAV, CTS, CTSD, and CTS-IRU. Please allow up to 7 business days to view those on your transcripts. If you have any issues, please email my team directly at webinars@avixa.org. The webinar will last approximately 45 to 60 minutes, and all attendees have been placed on mute. If you have any questions during our presentation, please enter them into the Q&A window so today's moderator can address them at the end of the webinar. To get to the Q&A window, move your cursor to the live stream video box, locate the Q&A icon, and type away. Just please be mindful that there is a separate menu for the chat. You'll have access to this webinar on our website, avixa.org/webinars, within about 5 to 7 business days. Take it away, Holger.
Okay, thank you, Dion. Let me just share my screen. 1 second here. And that should be up now. So first of all, welcome to this webinar from my side as well. Hope everybody is great this afternoon. We actually have sunshine up here, which is good. It's turning warm in the Northeast. Before I start, I will just give a fair warning for some things. I live in rural Vermont, and our internet connectivity overall is not great. So if at some point during this webinar, my voice starts to be slow, that is the reason behind it. I apologize for it up front, and please let us know in the chat if that happens at any time. So topic for today is looking at the new wireless microphones, RMW and the Dacia wireless from Yamaha, and actually diving a little bit more into some of the features of the products and understanding better how to set it up, how to install it, how to design it into your solutions, how to integrate it, and offer the best wireless audio solution for your customers. Before I really jump into the specifics of the wireless one, I like to at least say a few things about a Dacia in general, because it's now 18 months about that we announced the first version of a Dacia, and we called it at that time already a family of products. And people were looking at us and saying like, hold on, there's one microphone, there's one speaker, there's one root processor. How is that a family that is one solution? And I think it is clear by now with all of the different products which we have now announced over the last 18 months, that this really is a family of products that is meant to work together, easily being installed, really out of the box cooperation, or being able to install solutions which allow for audio unified communications applications in the conference room or in education settings. So going right into RMW and the wireless Dante microphone, which it is. So RMW actually comes with 3 different parts or components to it, right? So on one side, you have the tabletop microphones, which are, well, the microphones capturing the audio and then sending it wirelessly to the access point. And the access point then being a Dante, having a Dante connection, providing digital audio out. In addition, there's a charger, which simplifies charging of the microphones, as well as some other things, and which really allows you to bring everything together. So we have these 3 components which build up the complete system, and we will look into these components quickly. So number 1, as a wireless microphone system, as you are, I assume, used to from Revolabs and Yamaha days, it is a deck-based wireless microphone system. I will just say a few words about it. Why? Number 1, 1.9 gigahertz is not your Wi-Fi or other used wireless frequencies in your environment. So it's actually a good frequency to use. It's different than your other wireless equipment in the building. 1.9 gigahertz is an open frequency, meaning it is license free. There's no need for anybody to pay to use a microphone. and there's no need for you to leave that frequency because somebody else takes ownership of it. The DECT standard actually protects the frequency itself, so you are allowed. It is open as a frequency band, but you're only allowed to use it if you play nice within the DECT standard. So you're not allowed to just use this for any kind of equipment. It has to be a DECT approved equipment that's using the DECT standard. So it's actually a great frequency spectrum to use for wireless microphones. And if you ever want, I can go on for another half an hour why DECT is so good, specifically in environments where you don't have people managing your wireless frequencies, managing your microphone systems, and so on. It really protects against interferences and things of that nature. With this version of the product, the RMW, we are actually introducing the latest technology. So if you are used to, actually we're using a chipset. I think we actually went 2 generations ahead with the chipset. So we are now using the latest DECT chipsets, which support actually multi-level modulation, which allows you actually to send twice as much data over the wireless link. More data means better audio quality. So that is a very simple rule there. And it also has the AS256 now actually encryption part of the product. So in the past, we had to program that ourselves, and we did. But now actually as part of these latest DECT chips, that's actually part of the chipset itself. And it is a network-based synchronization system. If you, again, are used to our older or previous products, there we actually had a separate synchronization bus, which actually allowed to synchronize systems to maximize the frequency for different units, which might be in the vicinity of each other and see each other wirelessly. Now we are no longer requiring the network clocking, which is of a high enough quality that we actually now can synchronize the units by using that synchronization, that clock, and no longer requires a separate synchronization bus. Looking at the microphones itself quickly, there are 4 different tabletop microphone types, which come at the beginning now of this product. We have an omnidirectional tabletop, a directional tabletop, and then 6-inch and 12-inch gooseneck microphones. You see the smaller images down on the bottom left. They are powered by intelligent lithium-ion batteries, which have, in the documentation, it says 20-hour talk times. I was just on a call with some of our engineers in the field, and they were talking about, I switched it on Friday, and Monday morning it was still running. So it is 20-hour talk time based on the documentation, and 3.5-hour charge time for a full charge. Again, after about half an hour, you are at about 50% of the battery. As it is with lithium ion, you push a lot at the beginning, and then it flattens off at the end. Why did we go with lithium-ion batteries? They're intelligent batteries, so they don't only give us information on what's the current charge status, but also information on the battery health. So if you have the battery for a few years, it might just tell you that, you know what, the battery health isn't that great anymore. It has been charged too often, or it has been left uncharged for too long, and it might be better to change that battery. Batteries are, of course, field replaceable and can be gotten through the normal channel from Yamaha. The charger is being built in a way that it fits any 8 of our microphones. So just bringing that picture up here again. So you actually see how the charging areas are located there. So it doesn't matter what kind of microphone, whether it's gooseneck or tabletop, they all fit into the charger, 8 at a time. You also see, or are maybe used to the older versions of our products, that we have like these magnets in the chargers, which actually pull the microphones in. So that's exactly the same technology which we're using here. There's a magnet in the microphone, a magnet in the charger, which ensures that the microphone is sitting correctly in the charger and pulled in towards the charging ports there. And in addition, you see here already that the charger actually has not only charging ports, but actually you see 4 connections there. So there's actually data connection as well, which we will be seeing in a little while, what that means and how you can take advantage of that. Lastly, when I talked about the charger, I already said that you can use the charger, you don't have to use it. All of the microphones actually do have a USB-C, allows you to power and charge the microphone. So it can be used if your meetings are really, really, really long. You can charge them this way. Or if you want to leave the microphones on the table, it's just a USB cable going into the microphones to power them at all times that you don't need a charger, for example. The wireless access point for us is actually important to point out that it's not just an access point, it's way more than that. As the access point, it's able to talk to 8 microphones. It's PoE powered. I said earlier, it's Dante network audio, which comes out of it. But what we do with the access point is actually it has a full DSP integrated with it. And it's not just a DSP, it's a DSP that is specifically optimized for the use case of wireless microphones. So we know what kind of microphones are behind it. It's not a generic echo canceller, it's an echo canceller specifically for wireless microphones. What does that mean? Well, a few things. Of course, through the wireless channel, you do have some delays. So we know that already when we build the echo canceller. But we also take other things into account. A wireless microphone is very easy to move from a place to another place on the table. You actually change the echo path. And an echo canceller has immediately to react to that. And the echo canceller, which is in the wireless access point here, is specifically built to be high speed and very adaptive to these changes so that you really can get best audio back to the far end as quickly as possible. Besides the echo cancellation, you have the noise reduction, human voice activity detection, which actually also helps with the noise reduction. You have the de-reverberation for the room. You have automatic gain control. You have a full 6-channel equalizer, which we'll see in a little while here as well for each microphone. So there's actually a lot of things in there. So one of the advantages, which I already mentioned, was we can do all of this specifically for the microphone type of a wireless microphone. But what comes in addition is actually because we have the echo cancellation, because we have the audio post-production processing already within the access point, it is very easy to integrate wireless microphones in addition, for example, to an existing installation. You will not need echo cancellers on any of the DSPs which you have. We are not using that resource. And that, as you know, is actually the most expensive or the most rare resource on the DSPs, and you can only run a limited number of echo cancellers. So actually taking some of that audio post-processing out of the DSP and putting it into the antenna helps you in your installation. Access point is very simple. It actually comes with a wall or ceiling bracket, which actually clicks into the back of the access point. And it can very easily be, the access point can very easily be taken off that bracket with just a small lever which you need to pull. Recommendation when you install it is as high as possible to actually have line of sight between where the access point is and where your microphones will be placed, right? And the higher you go, the more a person standing or sitting at the table is not getting in that line of sight. That's just normal, or the best way of doing it to actually get best signal strengths and not have a lot of absorption of these signals between the microphone and the access point. We also point out When you have several access points in the same room, so if you're using more than 8 microphones, to leave a minimum distance between them. And that is just so that you don't have any electronic or RF/electronic interferences between the systems. Again, that's just some kind of be on the safe side. Don't put 2 antennas right next to each other. Put them a little bit apart, as described in the manual. To manage the access point or to manage the wireless microphone system, we actually have 3 different ways of doing that. And I will just have a quick look on way number 1 and way number 2, and I'm happy either myself or any of our field sales engineers to go through that in more detail with you to actually explain these 2 interfaces. I will actually focus in this presentation on the RFW management interface, which is the most in-depth interface from a graphical perspective. But you can actually manage the wireless microphone system through the typical ADESIA interface. So if you are used to our ceiling microphone, to our wired tabletop microphones, you already know that going into the room process of the RMCR, you actually are able to manage the whole system. You're able to find all of the components. You're able to set up the routes in Dante, or actually the system does that automatically for you. You're able to do the tuning of the room. All of this is also possible with a wireless microphone. So, but when we talk about a 5-step process in the past, these are the 5 black screenshots for all of the microphones, which is now the check firmware page. So we actually allow you to check and upgrade firmware right from that interface. But then we also have 3 additional steps when we detect that there is a wireless microphone as part of your installation. And that is, it starts a wireless setup, just saying, okay, I found a wireless system. It allows you to identify which chargers are you using, and it allows you to pair the microphones directly to the system. So you can do all of the management, even for the wireless system, out of the ADESIA interface, which you're used to when you're using our ceiling microphones or our wired tabletop microphones. The other way which you are able to manage the system is, or also integration with any kind of control system, is really the complete command line interface which we have. And same thing again, if you are used, or if you have used a command line interface with the ceiling microphone, with the tabletop microphone, or with our room processor, it's exactly the same principle. Again, it's the same kind of thing. It's the same way how you get to these different settings. So it has just been extended, or that interface has been expanded throughout the ADESIA family, now including the wireless control as well. And with that, I actually am going to drive down into the web user interface for the RMW, the wireless microphone system. And when you go into that web interface, there's actually, again, an installation wizard which can guide you through the process with 7 easy steps. And that's actually what we will be following here at the beginning. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go through that process. All of these pages are available in the web UI separately as well. So you can manage it differently if you want to. But the installation wizard simply guides you through and actually just gives you an easy way of following the steps that are required to set up a wireless system. And step 1, in my opinion, is actually one of the most important one, even though it has nothing to do yet with setup or configuration or microphone types or whatever else. What step 1 does is very simple. It starts a deck analyzer. So when you go through the wizard, first page is, hey, here's what I'm seeing right now in this spectrum, in this wireless spectrum. I see, if you see red, if you see a lot of red, that means there are a lot of other microphones, or see a lot of green as you do here. That means there's not a lot going on, so you can just feel free and add microphones at will. So what you actually see, it's actually 3 different areas. The top one just tells you a little bit, okay, here based on the number of channels, deck channels, which I have, here's what is busy and what's not busy. And it tells that for right now, as well as since you started this deck scan, this is a worst case scenario. So it's the least green, the most red. And actually on the right side to that, it actually will tell you, based on this, here's the amount of microphones which I would recommend you can add at most to this area. The second picture actually gives you the deck traffic over time. So again, it is green and red, and you see the red coming down over time. And we recommend to run that for definitely the 8 hours of a business day, 12 hours, 24 hours to run through a full day. And we'll actually tell you, is there something happening at specific times during a business day, right? So if you see almost no deck traffic, and then between 8 and 9, suddenly the number of devices in the area deck traffic increases significantly, and then at 4 or 5, it just disappears again. I will tell you that there seem to be a lot of people who are using deck headsets in your environment. And again, based on running this scan before you install the system, before you really do go into the depths of getting all of the microphones running and all of that, will actually tell you of if there is a problem with interference, or if there could be a problem with interference in that specific environment. So best practice, run the deck spectrum analyzer for a full business day, and that actually will show you during that day what was the most deck traffic, how much microphones can you add at that worst time, and will help you to install a successful wireless microphone system. Once that is done, so once you run the deck scanner, you just go into continue, and it goes into the second step, which is just general settings. And within general settings, and we'll go very quickly over this one here, you can just name that access point so that it's easier for you to find or easier for you to understand in your overall environment, which meeting room it's in or which classroom it is in, and if it's a first, second, third, or whatever system is within that room. We do recommend to set the NTP support only and just if we ever need logs, which most likely we will not, but if we ever do require them, they would show the right time, and we could all talk about that in a meaningful way. I also say if you are in an environment where you're using an MRX7D, the MRX7D detects different devices and sets Dante routes based on the unit ID. So in that case, your unit ID, which you select for the wireless access point, needs to be a unique value, not used by other devices in the network, because otherwise the MRX7D does not know which device is which. That is only required when you're using MRX7D. So once you went through that, you named the system, you set the time, you actually go to the next page, which is charger pairing. So the interesting thing here is the charger is a wireless device, but it's a wireless decked device. So even the charger, when it's talking to your system, is never in your network, never needs to be in your network, never needs to be added to your network. It is talking on the same decked frequencies to the access point, to the wireless access point of the microphone system, and does not require any other network setup. So as a wireless device, in this step, it will simply ask you, okay, there's no charger connected. Please identify the charger, and they have a pairing button on them. You press that pairing button. Now actually the access point and the charger start to talk to each other, and afterwards the charger is connected to that access point. Why is that important? Well, it just allows you to get additional information, and it allows you for easier handling of microphones, because now you can just place microphones in the charger, and we will see that in a second here, and do automatic pairing and things of that nature. The charger, as it is a wireless device, as it is intelligent, also has a firmware on it. And it will tell you whether it's okay or not. In this case here, it has actually the check mark next to it, so it's okay. Otherwise, I could update the charger. As part of that, actually the charger also holds the firmware for the microphones. So you can actually upgrade the microphones, or actually a charger upgrades or downgrades the firmware on the microphone once it knows that it's being associated with it. So step number 5, after you know, okay, the firmware on the charger is okay, is actually pairing the microphones. If you have microphones in the charger, as we have here on the top right, the image is just a charger. It has 8 microphones in it. They're all grayed out. There's nothing really going on yet. They are not being paired yet. It just detects these microphones are in the charger. It also already checked their firmware. But now you can actually start a pairing process by, again, just pushing one button on the charger, and we'll now actually go through and pair all of these microphones in the charger to that access point. And that's what you see down on the bottom. So now they're no longer grayed out. They're actually paired, and they're all paired to that access point. Once that is being done, or I should say during the pairing, what happens is each of the microphones to get one data channel assigned. So you actually do get 8 independent audio channels out of the access point for the 8 microphones. And the automatic assignment of this was done based on the location of the charger. So internally, the 8 locations are simply numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So during the charging, it just comes back and says, okay, here are your 8 microphones, and I have assigned it to the data channels 1 through 8. If you don't like this, if you want your microphones on different data channels because your DSP programming has already been done, and that gooseneck microphone was supposed to be on channel 1 and not on channel 4 or whatever else, it's actually just drag and drop. So you're saying, I don't like it to be on channel 4. You just go there with your mouse, click it, pull it up to channel 1, and it automatically switches channel 1 and channel 4. Or the microphones which are on channel 1 and on channel 4. And it has that full list for you on the right side. So you actually see here are my microphones, here are the channels, and you know which of these microphones is using which channel. And then step 7 is really just the final step, telling you, okay, here's what you did. Here again, your microphones, here again, your data channels, and I identify these microphones, and they're good on the firmware level. So it just gives you a quick overview again of where you are. And once you're done with that, you click the last finish button. It says, okay, I'm saving all of the things which you did. And now you're good. Your system is being set up. The interface overall then is being built very similar to the other RMCR or RM ceiling microphone interfaces which you're used to. So it has a home section, it has a settings section, and it has a tool section. And when looking at the home section, that's actually the page which we are seeing here right now. It will just give you status information on the system. It will tell you a little bit about, are you synchronized? And if you are synchronized, are you the leader or are you a follower? And it will give you information down on the bottom on all of the microphones that are being connected to the system. So in this case, for example, I have one microphone out, and it's actually audio flowing. So there's a little bit of a meter which you see under the microphone itself. It shows you whether it's muted or unmuted, green or red. It will give you information on the battery. So all of that you can see directly from the home page without going into more detail or any deeper into the web interface. However, if you want to go deeper, and that is the settings section over here, again, you have all of the different ways to manage the product and manage the component separately. And I will just go through the top level, which you see here. So you have an admin tab, you have a charger tab. We saw the charger, you have one or several chargers allocated to an access point which was done automatically in the wizard, but you can do it manually here. The same with the microphones. You can define where's your audio flowing. That's actually the which channel of the Dante output do I use. You can set things about DEC, and we will look into that. You can change network settings for the access point, and so on. So it actually has, again, a lot of different settings. I will actually, in the next few slides, go through the microphone setting, because that is the one which really is of most interest and has the most of the different settings for you. So each microphone actually has its own settings, and I just opened one in my system here. And it starts off with, how do you want this to work from a mute perspective? And first thing there is, I can actually add several microphones into a group, and now they actually act together, meaning that if I put microphones into group 1 and I leave them on toggle mic button behavior, means that any of the microphones, when it's muted, it mutes all of the others as well. And if it's unmuted, it unmutes all of the others in that same group. But you can define up to 8 groups, even across different access points, even across different microphone types. So you can have a group 1 here, and you put some of the wireless microphones into it, but you also have maybe a ceiling microphone in your installation. And if you assign to that ceiling microphone mute group 1, it now actually mutes and unmutes together with the wireless microphones, which are in the same group, and maybe together with the wired tabletop microphones in the same group. So you can actually define these groups across the different microphone types and across different access points, tabletop microphones and ceiling microphones. Besides having groups, you can also define, when I take a wireless microphone out of a charger, do you want it automatically to start, or do you want it to keep it in standby mode and somebody has to press the power on button? When it starts, do you want it to be muted or unmuted when it comes out of the charger? And that's something which you want to decide based on, maybe people pick up microphones late during the meeting, and you don't want to have all of that noise of microphones being moved and whatever else when they come out of the charger, so you want them mute on. Maybe you don't want people to press a button to start the meeting. Maybe in that case, you would tell them to it's mute off, and they come out of the charger and immediately are in mute off state. And lastly, you can define what to do with the mute buttons. On that specific microphone, you can say, do I want to toggle, mute, unmute? Do I want it push to talk? In that case, if I push the button, it's push to talk. When I leave the button, it's off, it's muted. And then, or I can disable the button. Maybe I don't want people, or maybe I don't want anybody to manually mute or unmute that microphone. You can just unmute that button. There's also some settings down here: high pass filter, low pass filter, as well as a fader, which allows you, for that specific microphone, maybe you want to gain it a little bit, maybe you want to get it down a little bit because it's too hot. After that, actually comes several settings for the audio post-processing. I said the audio post-processing lives in the access point, but it's actually separate for each of the microphones. So you can actually define for each of the microphones, how do you want the echo cancel to work, how do you want the noise reduction and so on to work. And you have settings for each of them separately, and you can use them here. There's also a low latency mode. Low latency means we are sending the data as quickly as possible from the microphone to the whatever is behind this the access point. What happened in that case? So low latency mode, we have defined it that you can only identify it for gooseneck microphones. That is a restriction which we have put in just to say, you know what, that simply helps if you do local reinforcement, which is typically the reason why people want a low latency mode. A gooseneck microphone is simply from the pickup pattern, the right microphone in that case. So And low latency disables all of the audio post-processing within the system. For that, the microphones also has a 6-band equalizer, and you can use drag and drop to set these equalizers. If you want a low pass filter in, you would see that you can define it yourself. If you want band A to go down by 20 dB, 30 dB over there, it's a lower hertz somewhere. You can just define that. You can just pull and do things with this equalizer and build your best audio for your specific system, for your specific room, for your specific users, whatever it is. But each microphone does have this 6-band equalizer to actually optimize audio for it. Looking at some of the other pages, so there was a microphone page. Quickly looking at the deck page, there is really 2 settings in here which are of importance. The first one is what is decked. How strong should my RF signal be? And you can set that between full and low. Our recommendation is just like any RF signal, the higher the signal, the better, the less likely you will get into trouble with people stepping in or there's some absorption or something like that. But we do understand that also you might have problems with adjacent locations, right? If you have a call center where people use a lot of decked headsets, maybe you want to get the strength a little bit down here in the meeting room next to it. So you can actually select which strengths for the RF power you want to use in the system. Out of the factory, it comes. If you use several RMWs in the same room or the same vicinity, they should be synchronized to avoid wireless interference. And I want to make clear, wireless interference, that is a protection, or an additional protection, I should say. DECT itself is built in a way that it can react to interference and actually changes frequencies or time slots if it detects that another microphone or another DECT device is using the same time slot and the same frequency it is using itself. What synchronization simply does is it helps with freeing up more of these time slots, and it helps with that different RMWs, wireless microphone systems, will not step on each other, so that their time clock actually within DECT is synchronized and is always the same. It just means less risk that microphones have to change frequencies and time slots. So from a quick summary of these interfaces and the wireless microphones, so we added the latest DECT technology into the microphones, which actually ensures that you have best audio quality by doubling more or less our data throughput. The setup wizard allows for easy system setup. Specifically important, step number 1 with the integrated spectrum analyzer, you actually understand what other devices, what other DECT devices are in the vicinity, at least while you are running that scan. The lithium-ion battery gives you information on battery health, how much power is still left, how much health is still left in that battery. The DSP functionality is included in the system and is optimized for the wireless microphones, but also allows integration in solutions without requiring DSP or a lot of DSP resources outside of the system. And lastly, it's enabled PoE, it's all network, very easy to install. Just a quick look into how does it work within Adesia. And the answer there is, as part of the family, it works the same way as the ceiling mic works. It's the same way as the tabletop microphone works. Meaning that you have that access point. It goes uses a wire to go into the network switch, just uses sends Dante over, uses PoE in that case. And That network switch, if connected to the RMCR, if connected to the speakers, actually now allows you within a Desia to go through the Desia setup, which has I identify all of the products I set up, and then I start a tuning process, or can start a tuning process for the room to actually set the equalizers for your microphones and for your speakers. I can start to set delay or volume, nominal volume level for the speakers by measuring your specific environment, the specific environment in which you did the installation. Well, I had shown the full 9 screens now, which allow you the simple configuration. So again, what it does, it detects all of the components, it configures them, including the Dante channels, Dante connections, and then it actually allows to tune the room for, or the units for that specific room. I mentioned that before as well, but just want to say it again. You can mix and match the microphones within the Odessa technology. So the wireless microphones do work together with the ceiling microphones, do work together with the tabletop microphones. When I talked about automatic setup and detecting these microphones, part of that, for example, also is that we know that a wireless microphone, because of the wireless connection, has a higher latency than the ceiling microphone. And what that means actually within our automatic system, it actually adjusts these delays to each other. So it actually makes sure that you don't get an echo because you have a wireless microphone and a ceiling microphone in your installation. Audio is actually synchronized within the RMCR between the different microphone types. From an application perspective, where do we see use cases for that? I think the same as most of our presentations will tell you. Well, it's great for corporate solutions, whether it's a meeting room, whether it's a new meeting spaces, whether it is your whatever monthly company meetings or any kind of that environment. The wireless microphones will fit in perfectly. And education, like bringing in, bringing out microphones depending on the use case for the day, as well, of course, as corporate education training rooms, where it just might make sense to have miking off tables. That's also, I think, true for general education, higher education, when we look at the new hybrid education going on. How do you actually ensure that everybody in the room is being heard and not just the presenter? And again, wireless microphones help you in doing that. So from an Odessa family perspective, we are now actually at 3 different of the additions which we'll have to Odessa in the future. But you can have these days Odessa wireless, you can have Odessa with a ceiling, or you can have Odessa with a wired tabletop solution. And that's actually what I have. So let's just have a quick look at some of the questions, and please go ahead, enter more questions into the Q&A section. So first question which I see here is how many mics can be handled per access point, per wireless access point? And the answer to that is right now 8. So we have the access point for 8 microphones. You can have several access points if you need more than 8 microphones, or you can use an access point with not 8 microphones, less microphones if you need less. But each access point itself can support up to 8 microphones. Another question here is issue for delivery of these due to data chips not being available. Good question. right now, we do not have issues with this. It comes off the line right now. There's no known problem with deliveries for us right now. But I also I know that I have said it in a few other webinars, and I think it's just a funny story. It's like, with all of the problems which the whole world has right now with supply lines and all of that, we announced the microphone, we were ready to start selling it, and a whole pallet of our chargers were lost in transportation. I still believe they're sitting on an airport somewhere, either in a ditch or out in the rain. But we have access point, we have microphones, we don't have chargers. Which, of course, we have started the factory again, which was not just waiting for us to build new chargers, but have by now. Anyway, so the quick answer is, we do not see problems from that perspective. Obviously, we did see problems when somebody lost a whole pallet with chargers on it. But other than that, no known problems right now with the supply chain here. That is actually the only questions which I see right now. Are there any other questions which people have? Please enter them in the Q&A section. I see something in the chat here. And the question is, what is the possibility of this being on the New York state contract? So as a new product, it is not on any state contract at the moment. What I would recommend in these cases is reach out to us directly, to our sales group. They can work with you on seeing who is right now on the state contract from a supplier perspective, and from a reseller perspective, and we can work with them to see if it's possible to add this onto that contract. So another question, is there a number of open mic setting? Okay, good. So that goes more into the question of how does it work within the Adesia system? So the RMCR as a mixer behind it, really, which gets the different microphone signals and does the mixing, actually has an intelligent mixer built in at that point. Number one, it is a called this Dugan mixer. So a mixer which actually you don't just add more and more and more and more to it, but actually make sure that a result, a mixed result, is not too high, by really providing percentages of the output to each of the input microphones. And secondly, it also does automatically decisions on strengths of signal, and microphones which have a low strength are not being mixed into it. So there's not a fixed gating. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You can actually set the number of microphones you want maximum to be mixed into gating. But there is an automatic mixing going on within the RMCR. What is the configurability of the LEDs on the mic basis? At this point, it is limited. Again, the first version of the firmware, we do have the LEDs in mute or unmute state, and the identification for mute, as with our previous systems as well, actually has a slightly different pattern, so that people actually who are red-green or colorblind can still detect when it's muted or when it's unmuted. But that's what's in there right now. Programmability of the LEDs might be added over time in future firmware releases. How far can the mic be from the web and stay connected? That's a good question. It's of course it depends on line of sight, right? And we are looking right now in the full mode that you can be about 150 to 200 feet away distance between the microphone and the access point. But we also want to be clear there that that changes based on your environment. That changes on if there is a wall in between. That changes on if you put the antenna low or people are between the microphones and the antenna. So everything which actually restricts the line of sight will have an impact, meaning that the RF signal just gets weaker when going through whatever that object is, which is between the antenna and the microphone. Okay, and I think that's it, what we have right now for questions. Again, if you have additional questions, I'm happy for you to reach out to me or to our Yamaha sales group. We will be happy to help you and answer your questions and help you with designs you might have or design questions you have for the new wireless microphones.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stolze. And I'd like to thank all of our attendees so much for attending today's webinar, The Technology Behind Yamaha's New Wireless Conference Microphones. This recording will be available on our website, avixa.org/webinars within about 5 to 7 business days. And your half of renewal unit will be applied to your transcripts within those 5 to 7 business days. If you have any trouble, please contact my team directly at webinars@avixa.org. An important side note for CTS holders, if you registered for this webinar with an email address other than the one that's on file for you, you can't get credit for attending live. We can fix it on the back end, however. Just email your account rep and let them know that you used the wrong email address, and then we'll fix it for you there. Just want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor today, Yamaha, and another thank you again to Dr. Stolze and for helping us to understand the technology behind Yamaha's new wireless microphones. We hope you've enjoyed this. Please stay safe, everyone, and make it a great day.
Okay.